Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whenever and however and wherever you're listening. We're just glad that you are. This is the season finale of the podcast, and we're excited to have you along as we're going to talk about four games, two of them overtimes. Just an incredible 2 days down at Alumni Stadium on the Delaware State campus. As you know, this pod's available wherever you listen to your podcast. You can also watch us on YouTube, as more than 400 people a week do. On today's show, the big story is it was championship weekend. That's the big story.
Yep.
Every story is a big story. And so we're going to talk at a very high level about these games. Not a lot of stats available this soon after the games. It was funny, Marty. People were covering the games were so exciting, especially the Saturday games.
Yep.
A lot of the print space, meaning what's going to be in the newspaper, was talking about how the game unfolded
Yeah.
rather than stats and stuff like that. So,
And the schools were celebrating, so the coaches didn't put the stuff in for the
exactly.
most part.
It's Sunday morning at 9 o'clock. Seaford got back to their town at 9 o'clock last
Yes.
night, probably not nine, but late, and they paraded through the town, which was a
That's
pretty
right.
cool thing.
That's
So,
right.
anyway, lots of stuff. But anyway, as we always do, we want to thank one final time for this season Websites for Sports, websites, the number 4sports.com, and Brian Rutter, who manages that site. If you follow high school sports, you know about it. And if you don't know about it, find out about it because it's just a great website. It's got schedules, it's got maps to the events, that type of thing. And my favorite thing about it, you can set alerts. So you're told when something's schedule changes. My son's golf schedule has changed 3 times in the past 10 days through nobody's fault, but I've been alerted every single time. And so I can change it on my calendar. And so we can't thank Brian Rutter enough for sponsoring our websites. Again, that's websites, the number 4sports.com. That's website, the number 4sports.com. All right, Marty, let's start. I'm going to start with the unified game. I was
Yep.
there on Friday afternoon. I was there for Friday night too, but specifically on Friday afternoon when the unified game kicked off, and that was between Cape Henlopen, the 5 seed, and CR, the 2 seed. CR led most of the way, but Cape had a rally late in the game. They came back 46-34 to win it. It was a rematch of a regular season game that CR won 50-20, so not
Yep.
quite as high scoring for Cape, but not high scoring compared to the
Right.
regular season game for the total score, but pretty darn close. And so it was the first time Cape has won the championship after reaching the semis and losing the past 2 years. Caesar Rodney finished 9-2. They had a 9-game winning streak broken. And so that's been a school that's been a powerhouse. And I didn't have a chance to look back, but they've either been in the semis or the finals, I think, since unified flag football started.
Right.
So they just do a tremendous job down there. And both these schools have very large rosters to the point, Marty, where it's kind of like they have a varsity and a JV roster, even though they only play at the varsity level. And then so come championship Sunday, you can only bring 15 players. And so
Right.
they've got to pare it down. But what was cool in both cases is that the players who played during the regular season but weren't dressed for the championship game, both Unified Partners and the athletes, they were in the stands cheering them on. And
Oh,
so,
that's cool.
they came off the Cape bus and they were just as excited to be there. And so it was pretty cool about that. So anyway, that the unified season wraps up. And then after that game was the 3A game. And then on Saturday was the 2A game and the 1A game. And we're going to go in reverse order. We're going to start with the most recent game, the 1A game that happened. And Seaford beating Newark Charter School 21-20 in overtime. Seaford scores and converts the PAT. Newark Charter scores, goes for 2 to win it,
Yep.
and gets stopped on literally the half-yard line. And this was a game where there was no scoring until under 2 minutes in the first half. The teams traded a lot of punts and a lot of INTs. Seaford went up 7-0 when Vince Emmons hit Izion Matthews on a 19-yard touchdown pass. And then it wasn't until Newark Charter scored, and then in the fourth quarter, Seaford goes up 14-6. Then there was 5 turnovers over a period of 8 minutes. It was just back and forth, and most of them were Seaford's. A couple they recovered, that kind of thing. Just one of those. It's one of those wild things. If you get a chance, and you can go on the NFH Network, and I think even if you're not a member, like in 3 days, you can go on and watch the games on demand or something. It used to be that way, maybe not anymore. But then in the overtime, Vince Evans, quarterback for Seaford, touchdown run. Luke Metner had the PAT, and then Newark Charter About Austin Badegbe had the 10-yard touchdown right on their first play. It was boom,
Yep.
and he was in the end zone, but then he went for the rushing touchdown to go for the win. And, that might be questioned, whether they should have tried to quick kick or not. We're not going to talk about that. They did what they thought that's a pretty smart Newark Charter coaching staff doing
I
what they
love
wanted
that
to do.
decision. Yeah, I personally liked
And,
it.
and it was about a quarter of a yard shy.
Yep.
And it was a
Yeah,
great tackle by Jevion Hurst. He was the first one in. I think this kid's only a sophomore.
I
I
think
looked
so
it up.
too.
That
Yeah.
that Seaford team is young for the
Yep, they
most part.
are.
I mean,
They
they got a
are.
lot of young players on that team, and he came in and made the hit from the second level. He's not a lineman. He got in there from, I believe, it was either his linebacker position or his safety position, and
Yeah,
he got in there
linebacker.
quick
Yep.
and made the play. And then he had several guys come on and pile on him. And I was actually listening to this on the radio because I had gone out to eat with my family. My
Yep.
middle son Riley is home for college and goes back this morning, so we wanted to go out to dinner. But it was just it was almost excruciating. And Sean Greed and Jason Bowen did a wonderful job on WDEL listening to how they were unpiling the pile to decide
Yes. Yep.
if it was either a first-time state champion or a champion that hasn't won since 1983.
That's right.
And it ended up being the team that hasn't won by 1983. But just an incredible job by Glenn Phillips. The team went back to a parade through Seaford, with a fire truck, that whole deal. The stands looked packed for both sides. And I say packed, looked like a great crowd for a
Yep.
high school state championship game on a cold day for sure. But anyway, that's how it unfolded. I had said last week in the podcast I'd have a smile on my face either way. I cover Newark Charter very closely. I've already talked to Coach Jody Russell this morning, and so part of me was rooting for them, but I've been in communication with Glenn Phillips from the start of the season with stats and stuff like that, and just his story of how he left Laurel, went back to work, wanted to come back and coach football, changing his job position allowed him to do that, and he went to Seaford. And he has rallied that town, Marty. The basketball team a few years ago had a similar following.
Yep. Yep.
In the dead of winter, there's nothing else to do in Seaford. You go and watch basketball. But this, the following that they've had, they've recreated the magic of the 1980s when they won a Division I championship and they won a Division II championship all in a span of 3 years. And then DuPont came in and the whole town emptied out.
Yeah.
DuPont left, I should say, and so did that town.
Yeah.
And it's been a struggle since. I think they went 22 years at one point without making the
They
playoffs.
did.
And then
Yeah.
when
With
the
a losing
classes
record.
changed, with a
Yeah.
losing record. And when the classes changed, they made it twice, then they were out twice, and now
Yep.
they're back. And so it's a Cinderella story. I mean, that's
It
the
is.
best way to put it. It really is a Cinderella story. Anyway, so your thoughts on that game?
And, it's. I love the fact that Seaford won this. I mean, I would have been okay either way as well, but Seaford just seemed like the story all year in 1A. They were blowing people out. They, October 17th, 33-7, they beat Newark Charter. So
Right.
Newark Charter, amazing adjustments to change this because they really shut down that Seaford offense in this game. I said on Twitter that this was the biggest a game-saving tackle in a championship game since, and you and I were there in 2015 when Eli Hutchinson stopped Colby Reeder at the goal line in overtime for Smyrna's first state title.
Yep.
It's very reminiscent of that. This was a crazy game. I did see the highlights of the fourth quarter multiple times because I couldn't believe there were 5 turnovers in the fourth quarter. And it just looked like it was cold, and as we all know, the football gets really hard. It gets slippery, and there was a tough time holding on to that thing. A lot of nerves, I'm sure too. But I thought this game was phenomenal for the fact that it went into overtime. It just provided a great bookend to the weekend. You had Middletown Friday night doing their thing, and then the 2 games on Saturday were just nip and tuck. They keep people in the stands, they keep people tuned in, and we had block punt in this game. We had the 5 turnovers. It was crazy, and it's amazing that Newark Charter, if you go and look at some of the turnovers, I think it was Seaford who had 4 turnovers of their own in the fourth quarter, and Seaford only scored. Newark Charter only scored off of 1 of those. So this could have been a different game, different ways. But congratulations to Seaford and Coach Phillips. He and the kids were so excited at the end of this. Just a great way to end it. I personally love Coach Russell going for 2. I always think, if you get the ball second and you got a chance to run your best play, your best 2-point play, you go for it. And that kid, Begdegby, hadn't been stopped all season. And just a great job by Hurst. And then he kind of holds him up enough for the other defenders to get in there and close it down. But you're right. It seemed like an eternity as they're taking the pile off and nobody's raising their arms or giving the signal for no good. So finally, the fireworks in the Seaford's team goes off, and it's exciting. So it's a great win for Seaford, and congratulations to Coach Phillips and for Coach Russell. We're going to be seeing them contend at the 1A and 2A level, most
Yeah,
likely very soon for
soon.
years
Yep.
to come.
Yeah. He's done a great job with that program and all of his assistant coaches who's he brought in. I say it all the time. He's got a Hall of Fame cast of assistant coaches,
Yep.
some who were head coaches and some who were never head coaches,
Right.
but they coached forever under Butch Simpson and even came back when Jody Russell got to Newark and in between. So congratulations to Newark on an excellent season. Real quick, the other reason I like that go for two in that situation is because Austin Badegbe scored on the very first play of their overtime
Yep.
possession. And so mentally, if you're Seaford, you're kind of like, Jesus, what just happened?
Yeah.
And then, plus your offense in Newark Charter, and well, I shouldn't say with the defense because I think Seaford probably has a lot of guys that goes two ways. So they might have been
Right.
on the field for offense. But the offense for Newark Charter, for the most part, had been resting while Seaford went on their overtime
Right.
thing. So I like that call. And again, you can't question it. They came a quarter of a yard from winning the state championship, and everybody saying what a great call that was.
Yeah.
And so, I don't, and you know what's great? I've been on social media a little bit since it happened. I haven't heard anybody question it.
No, I haven't either.
You do it and you go for the win. So anyway, so congratulations certainly to Glenn Phillips and Seaford. Just a great Cinderella story, and to Newark Charter and Jody Russell, you'll be back. That's the bottom line. And Seaford will be too. The program there. Here, let me put it this way: nobody's transferring out of Seaford to go anywhere to play football now. That's for sure. So congratulations to them. All right, the Win Today Planner developed and written by Dan Rigby from Cesar Rodney High School, wrestling coach, phys ed and health teacher down there. I know we talk about it every week. It's kind of like a diary, but it's more than that. You don't write what you're feeling. You fill in blanks of what you need to get done and how you're feeling and what you want to do. And that's probably the best description I can give it. It's a great It's a great tool for students, for student athletes. And I've always said some adults could use this as well.
Right.
One of them talking to you right now to get stuff done. The great thing is when it first started, there was a charge for it. There's to use this tool from CYM teams to rec teams, travel teams, high school, college teams. And so it's been so successful that Dan has made it free. If you live in the state of Delaware, you can get this program for your team completely for free. And so Dan Rigby at Win the Day Planner, you can go and see more information at winthedayplanner.com. That's winthedayplanner.com. All right, 2A, the 12 new game, another one. This one a 2 overtime game. Red Lion defeats Indian River 22-21. An upset on paper. And I think I said this last week. I'm not sure it's an upset off the paper because that Red Lion offense is just wonderful. And I texted you this, Marty. Indian River didn't see an offense like Red Lions. The closest they saw was Odessa. But Red Lions got 3 or 4 or 5 people who can make a big play. And score in different ways. It's not a passing sensation. Evan Budinger, he is a passing sensation going to play D1 Monmouth at Monmouth, but it's not just him. I quoted you for this, Marty, on your tweet. Defense rules the day.
Yeah.
Because these are 2 high-powered offenses that scored a lot of points all season long. And it just didn't happen in the first half. And I watched the first half of this game before I went to my Wilmington University broadcast. Every big play for both teams got called back for a penalty.
Yeah,
it's at least it felt that way.
Yep.
So it was 7-0 Red Lion at the half. Indian River nobody scores till the fourth quarter when Indian River scores. End of regulation. Red Lion wins the toss and opts to play defense, which you always do on the first play. Darnell Stokes, a 9-yard run, fumbles it into the end zone, of all things. Max Williams fall on it. There was some question about, are you allowed to advance the fumble, that kind of thing. And long story short, it was a touchdown. And then Red Lion, there was a penalty for Red Lion, and the extra point, they decided to move it closer. And IR scores 2 points to lead 15-7. They don't decide to move it closer; it moves closer. And that was Dylan Grice who scored on that. So it's 15-7. And then Indian River, Jordan Jones rushes for a touchdown. And let me make sure I get this right. And then it was Red Lions, Judah Barber, who fumbled the 2-point conversion as he was running it in, picks it up and scores. So now we're at 15-15. So in the second overtime, Red Lions, Barber scores, and the PAT is kicked by Tegan Norris.
Yep.
And then Indian River scores, and then they decide to go for two.
Yeah, they're
But
going for the win.
there's a penalty. And so
Yep.
they change their mind and they send the kicker in. And the kicker misses it to the right. And we both look at this, and I think you agree it was a clean hike. It was a clean
Oh
snap.
yeah, yeah.
Just push the kick a little
It
bit
just
right.
yep.
And so, of course, devastating for the kicker and the team. But, Red Lion, and I said this last week, to me, this is a great story because I covered Red Lion back in the day when they were a national powerhouse and half their squad went to Division I programs and they were not liked around the state of Delaware. It's just that plain and simple because nobody had ever seen this happen in the state, even though, as Butch Simpson says, there's a Red Lion, if not 10 of them, in every other state in the country that has decided to play a national schedule and build a powerhouse. Anyway, long story short, congratulations to Coach Kenny Anderson, his staff, and the Red Lion School. They flew under the radar. They fly under the radar every year since we've been doing this podcast. They start out early. They played two D1 team or Class 3 teams, I should say. It used to be D1, and so everybody. They forget Red Lion's not a powerhouse anymore.
Right.
And so they're supposed to lose those games. And boom, all of a sudden they're in the playoffs. They got knocked out the last couple years. And this year they just put it all together. They stayed healthy. And they just have a great passing game, a great running game. They have great receivers and a tough defense. Their defense, I think, is often underrated because they score so many points. The defense doesn't have to be good, but when you hold Indian River to 21 points, 7 in regulation, that tells you you've got a pretty good defense.
It's funny. I went back and listened to last week's pod to hear our predictions, and we both picked Red Lion, and we both pretty much said, I don't have a reason for doing it.
Right.
It's just a feeling that this team feels like, the win over Howard was just so crazy. And so many things had to go their way. And then, of course, in this one, they get Indian River they lost a fumble at the Red Lion 6. They had a 74-yard touchdown run erased by a penalty. So all these little things conspiring, it's funny. It just seemed to be Red Lion's year. And when it was 7-0, and that's when I put the defense was ruling the day. It was 7-0 Red Lion at halftime. These teams came in Red Lion averaged 40 points a game, and Indian River averaged 38 points a game, and it's 7-0 at halftime. I think everybody expected this to be a 41-40 type game like they had last week.
Yep.
And instead, it wasn't. It was a defensive battle throughout. There were some drop passes on both sides. There were some great defensive plays like shoestring tackles to stop big runs. And in the end, it's funny. I thought on certain corners of the internet there was some heat being put on the kicker, and I put out a tweet reminding people, hey, they were going for the win.
Right.
There was a false start penalty. This kid did not think he was going to be involved in this at all, and then all of a sudden he's trotted out there, and it's a longer extra point than he's used to, and just pushed it a little bit. I'm laughing because Tegan Norris's extra point was it was crazy. Apparently, if you read the article, I think it was Brad Myers, Ken Anderson had told him to arc it a little bit more toward the right upright, and he did that. He did it to the point where it looked like it scraped the paint off the back of the crossbar as it came down. It was an achingly. People were watching. I'm picturing everybody like in a movie. People just watching it come down and down and down, and finally it sneaks over the end. But no, it was a great job by Tegan to hit that, and it just felt like after that game, Red Lion was a team of destiny. Evan Buttinger has played so well. Judea Barber and Jordan Jones playing fantastic. Jamarian Ross just had a lot of star players. And it's funny, they lost, we talked about last week, two of the best players they had in the last 2-3 years, they lost to Middletown. Mm-hmm. So they've had to kind of regroup, reload a little bit. And Ken Anderson, it's funny, on the Red Lion webpage yesterday, they tweeted a picture or put a picture of the 3 generations of Andersons. And it's funny because I played softball for years against the Anderson, the son and the father, not the coach father, but the coach's father.
Gotcha.
And that picture just brought back so many memories. And I sent it to them and just said, man, this brings back so many memories of our old softball days. It's so cool. The bottom line is this couldn't happen to nicer people. Right. The Andersons are just good people. Mm-hmm. And it was so exciting to see how excited they were as this was going off. Yeah. And, most people picked Howard to blow them out.
Yep.
And then people said they're probably going to get boat raced by Indian River.
Yep.
They were tired. They were coming off a brutal game against Howard,
Yep.
and they pulled it off
Yep.
regardless. And it's just, I sent a note to Evan Buttinger last night and just congratulated him. And he said, you know what? We played like a team. Nobody cares about having the big stats. We care about getting the win. And everybody bought in. And he's like, when you got guys like Barber and Jones in the backfield, and you got a defense playing as well as theirs,
Yep.
it's like our confidence level was sky high. So congratulations to the Andersons and Red Lion and to Indian River and Coach Townsend. What a first season. They move up to 2A
Yeah.
and they go undefeated
Yep.
all the way to the championship game. So, next year, we'll get to that at another podcast, but next year might be a little different for them.
Yeah.
But this was a phenomenal season, dream season for them, and they came achingly close to the title.
Yeah, Indian River, 21 game win streak
Yep.
broken, and they lose 21 seniors. I count, at least counting on their roster. So it's going to
Yeah.
be a rebuilding year for them. For Red Lion, it's the first state title in any sport at that school. I talked
Yep.
to Ken Anderson, who's also the athletic director, and he couldn't remember whether a basketball team had won a state title back when they had those two kids from
Right.
Jamaica, and they were
Right.
pretty
That's
legit.
right. That's right.
Right, they either lost in the state championship or they lost in the semis because I was, still I was actually announcing high
Yep.
school basketball back then, and so I knew that wasn't one. And their softball program's been good over the years, and but they had not won a state title either. And
It
so,
had to be the finals because being a St. Elizabeth guy, I was at the semifinals that year, and they beat St.
okay,
Elizabeth in the
so there you go.
semifinals at the Bob.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
I
yeah,
don't forget who they lost to,
yeah.
the basketball team, but anyway. So yeah, I'm happy for Red Lion. Like I said, they've kind of flown under the radar. Not only
They
their team, but
have.
their players.
Yep.
We got a Division I quarterback right now. I think right now the only quarterback in the state of Delaware who's committed to play at a Division I school.
To my knowledge,
to,
yes,
to our
that's
knowledge,
correct.
right?
Yep, yep.
And he kind of flew under the radar here, and
Yeah.
so and of course the running backs are tremendous too, and a couple defensive guys. So I'm happy that there's a positive spin back on the
Yes.
football program there. You can almost think, I'm not sure how many kids will be transferring out of Red Lion, which has happened the past
Yeah.
few years, as you said, to try to go to where the grass is greener, and I'm using air
Right.
quotes, and not always the case. And so, again, congratulations to Coach Kenny Anderson and his entire staff. All right, if you're looking for a real estate agent, Mary Kate Johnston at Remax Associates is a great one. We've used her and recommended her to friends who have then recommended her to their friends. And whether you're buying or selling or both, as was the case with my wife and I 20 years ago, she's just a wonderful resource. She's been doing it for more than 20 years. Her website is marykatej.remax.com, marykatej.remax.com. If you want to reach out to me, I'd be happy to tell you about our experience. She has 5-star reviews on Zillow and just does a wonderful job of making sure that whether you're the buyer, the seller, or both, you're getting the best deal, but you're also doing it the right way, making sure that things are taken care of before you sign the dotted line at the house you're buying, that type of thing. And so, again, it's Mary Kate Johnston with Remax Associates. All right, on to the big boys. 3A, Middletown Sallies. Middletown wins it 28-14. Marty, I was on the sideline down there for that game. It was freezing cold. I haven't been that cold in a long time. And remember, I'm at the Polar Bear Plunge every year.
Yes, yes.
And I haven't been that cold. And I got there at 3:00 to help set up for the unified game, and I left there, at 9:30, whatever time the game ended. So I was in it for about 6.5 hours, and it was
Right.
windy, and it was tiring. But anyway, nobody cares about my perils at the game. But anyway, so I was at this game, unlike the other two that I had to watch because of my broadcast schedule. And on the third play of the first possession, Darian Cunningham hooks up with Darius Pope for a 74-yard touchdown. And I just felt that the game was over at that point. And I'm not sure why, but it was just a gut feeling from this is the first time that I had been that close to the action for
Right.
either of these teams playing against a good team. And it just looked at first glance like Middletown had the better players and the better athletes and the better, I don't want to say system, but they were just in sync
Yep.
in the kickoff return and the 3 plays. I just felt that for whatever reason. And it turned out that was the case, but I just don't know why I had that feeling of seeing that. And they just, 2 touchdowns, 28-14, but remember it was 28-7. right off the bat.
Yeah, it's 28 to
Middleton,
7, middle of the second quarter. Like,
right? Yeah,
yeah.
Sally's came back down and scored to tie it up, but then Middletown just took over.
Yep.
And they took over and it gave me the same impression that, okay, maybe that Sally's drive was a fluke.
Yep.
It wasn't a fluke, but you know what I'm saying. That,
Yeah.
okay, they
Yeah.
got that over. Maybe Middletown woke up that, okay, this isn't going to be as easy as we thought. And
Right.
boom, they snapped their fingers and they just went. And it was just a feeling that I had. And it turned out, like I said, that's kind of, and even though, again, it was 28-14 with plenty of time left to score a couple touchdowns, I never felt like the game
No.
was in risk. I
Uh-uh.
felt, Middletown's going to win this. The question is it going to be 28-14 or
Yeah.
is it going to be 28-21? Or if they get closer, is Middletown going to score again? Because at that point, again, they're trying to kill the clock. They're not trying
Yep.
to score touchdowns. And I know you watch this game,
Yep.
and so I don't know if you felt the same thing or what you saw on TV that I couldn't see at the sideline, type of thing.
Well, it's funny. The second half, I felt the same way. It just felt like it was an impossible task. That 14 points was just too much. The 21 at halftime, 28 to 7, just seemed like too much. The first thing I did after this game was over was what I usually do when these two teams are involved, is go online and see what people are saying. And the first thing you get is, well, the Sally's offense is terrible. The Sally's defense is overrated. And you know what? I responded to a few people and said, sometimes it's just as simple as there's one team that's better than everyone
Right.
else.
Yep.
And Middletown was better than everyone else this season. They held Sally's to 20 points in 2 games. This isn't a fluke by Middletown or anything like
Right.
that. They destroyed all the in-state competition. And I know, people were saying, well, that's Smyrna games. Oh my God, that's over. That's over. They've more than made up for that.
Mm.
Yeah, it's just a case of they were the better football team. And I agree. They had the better athletes. They were in sync. Sally's, when they got behind, they're not a team built to just throw the ball willy-nilly when they're
Right.
behind. And,
Never
they
have been.
alternated, Nab and Teal. And when you're playing a defense like Middletown, they love that because they
Yep.
can rush the quarterback, which they did. I can't remember a time when Nab dropped back that he didn't have to scramble
Right.
around. By the way, and I watched this game with my brother. The Sally's offensive line, I thought, did a really nice job because early on, Nab was getting time to throw the ball. No one was open. That
Right.
Middletown defensive backfield, which they've touted all year as being the best. It's funny, you can't see any of that on the live stream because we're focused on the
Right.
quarterback. But I had people say that they were just blanketing the Sally's receivers all over the field. And I asked Gene Deladon about it, and he just said, Coach Blum and his team had an excellent game plan, and they were the better team. The better team won.
Yeah.
And he said, I told my team that 3 championship games in 3 years is
Not bad.
We're doing what we can. No,
Right.
yeah, I love the Sally's is overrated and Gene's a terrible coach. Sally's hadn't been in the championship game for like 12 years before he became the coach. Now they're
Right.
3 in 3 years and he can't win. It's just one of those things. You get beat up no matter what you do. Sally's is Sally's. They're going to reload. Middletown is Middletown. They're going to reload. They're the far and away, I thought you clearly had in the first game of the championship weekend, the 2 best teams in their division were playing for a championship. There was no question.
Yep.
You can say what you want about Smyrna. They were not at the level of Middletown and Salesianum
Nope.
this year. And Middletown was the better team. And I thought it was a showcase game for Middletown's defense. Jack Wilson and company, those guys are just, they're one of the better defenses we've ever seen, going back to the Smyrna days too, when they were when Mike Judy was first winning championships there.
Yep.
So this was a huge win. I thought Sally's had a great season. They've got some great players. 2 things: they were missing Austin Thomas and Jet Healy, who was our player of the week a couple weeks ago, did not play for Sally's, which is huge in the return game. That was a big miss for them. So no excuses. I mean, even Gene said, these guys are missing, but there's no excuses here.
Yep.
Injuries happen in football.
That's part of the game.
And so congratulate. Middletown last year we had the whole controversy and stuff, and I don't think anything's on the horizon here. I've never heard anything this season. It's great. They just were the better team, and they had a phenomenal team. Darian Cunningham played out of his mind, especially in the second half of the season. Once that kid decides to take off, too, his wheels are incredible.
Yeah.
Just all in all, up and down the lineup, the wide receivers, the running backs, Hanif Miller did a nice job. Darius Pope. And we'll talk about B.J. Garrett, who came back. just a great dominating performance. And it's funny, the 28-14, the game really wasn't that close to it, as you
Agree.
said. I shouldn't say not that close. It didn't feel that close. It just
Correct.
felt like
Right.
those 14 points were insurmountable in the second half. So congratulations to Coach Blum in Middletown and Coach Deldon Sally's on a great season.
Well, and you bring up a good point. When it was 28-7, I'm thinking, is this going to be a running clock? Is
Right.
Sally's going to get running clocked by the end of the third quarter? In fact, I was talking to somebody. I said, "Is there a running clock in a state championship game?" And I don't know the answer to that.
There is.
Is
There
there?
is.
Okay,
Yeah,
there is.
yeah.
I know in
Yep.
some sports there's not, or at
Yep.
least I don't think. Anyway, and so for Sally's to hang in, regroup, and then stay. It was the same Middletown team coming out of the locker room in the second half. They were just as
Yes.
talented. They don't lose any talent at halftime.
No.
And Sally's came back. So whatever the coaching staff did for Sally's at halftime helped, and the
Yep.
players came out loaded and ready to play. And because that's like I said, that's what I'm thinking. I'm going to get home early. It's going to be running clock. I'll be out of here by 9 o'clock, but not the case. And so just a couple numbers for Middletown's second win this season over Sally's, 16-7 on October 24th. I think 2 of the last 4 years, the team that has won the regular season game has lost when
Right.
they played in the
Right.
playoffs. It's a second straight title for them, and again over Sally's. Last year, Middletown, it was come from behind. They were down by 2 touchdowns and came back and won it late, 30-27. Undefeated versus Delaware teams. Middletown
Yes.
is. Their losses came to area powerhouses. The bottom line is they were the number 1 seed. They played like it. They proved it on the field where
Yep.
it matters most.
Yep.
There is no rebuild for these 2 programs.
No, it's just reload.
The goal already is to be in the state championship
Yep.
game next week. And before I'm gonna do an ad, and I want to talk about the location of the game.
Sure.
Andre L. Photography, you know him from the sidelines, working for different papers, et cetera, et cetera. And now he has his own business, Andre L. Photography. He and his wife create portraits, whether it's a senior involved in sports. It doesn't have to be involved in sports, or a business professional. It's about transformative experience that celebrates and elevates their client. It's just something that they have a passion for, and they do it well. And
Yep.
we've used them at Appoquinimink for several sports media days. He's done stuff for my sons, and Andre's great. If he's there covering a game for somebody or doing pictures, he'll send me a picture of Tyler on the drum line at halftime that he's not there to cover. And
Yep.
it's just he's a great guy. Trust me. You'll want to go out and have a drink with Andre after the portrait thing. And I mean that in a positive way, not because
Right.
it's stressful. And so AndreLphotography.com. That's AndreELphotography.com. He's been a sponsor of the podcast for several years, and we can't thank him enough. All right, Marty, the Del State. So this year, all
Yep.
4 games were there, which I like that move,
Yep.
and it's midway, farthest. You had Seaford on one end of the state, and you had teams on the other end of the state, and it's an hour ride, no matter
Right.
what. So for the fans, it's great. For the players, it's great. Everybody, it's great. They did the unified on Friday afternoon at 4, and then the 3A game at 7, and then it was 12 and 3:30. I like the time in between. They don't try to pretend. I hate when tournaments try to pretend games are going to be faster than we already know they're not going to be.
Yep.
And so and DIAA years ago used to do that. They'd say, "Oh yeah, our football games are going to be at 5 and 8 o'clock." No, they're not going to be at 5 and 8 o'clock. They're going to be at 5 o'clock. You're going to have a lot of ticked off fans sitting in the stands at 8 o'clock
Right. Yep.
as warm up start for the
Yep.
8 o'clock game. Anyway, so I didn't hear a lot of parking issues. I got there so early. I parked real close.
Yep.
It wasn't a big deal. And when they unloaded again, I didn't hear a lot of issues. So it's obviously not. But the fans were perfect. It was a perfect amount of space in the bleachers. Their away stands, or I think the away stands today, were actually bigger, longer, because there's more space over there. They could build bigger grandstands. And so the
Okay.
home stands, at least that's marked at home, I assume it's Del State's home stands, and where the higher seed is a smaller stand. So it even looked even more packed. But
Right.
I'm sitting there looking up and thinking, if we had this at Delaware Stadium, we could have put everybody in the south end zone.
Yeah,
on
it's
both sides.
cavernous. Yeah.
It's just, it is. It's not. And yeah, it's neat to play at Delaware Stadium, but it's neater to play in front of a packed house where you
Yep.
don't hear echoes because it's so crowded. Like
The presentation on TV looked great because the stands did look, for the most part, full. So I think that gives you a big game feel too while you're watching it,
absolutely.
instead of looking at Delaware and you're looking at 50,000 empty seats.
Right. Yeah.
Not that many, obviously,
Yeah.
but you know what I mean. The visual is different, definitely different.
Yeah, so I'm hoping the DIAA keeps it there. you know, it's an old stadium, and but here's the bottom line: the most important part of that stadium is the field, and
Yep.
the field is turf, and it's beautiful. But it's an old stadium. The concession stands are wooden
Yep.
structures and that kind of thing. That's supposedly all supposed to be redone in the next few years. And so, I'm not going to complain about that part. That
Right.
stadium is what it is. It wasn't long ago that Delaware Stadium was in the exact same situation where you
Yep.
walked in there and you felt like it was 1950 because that's when that stadium was built and the last time it had been refurbished.
Yep.
And so, I'm going to give Del State the benefit of the doubt that they're going to improve that stadium as their football program gets better.
Yes.
And that in the long run, it's going to be the absolute best place you could play the state
Yep.
championship.
Don't underestimate the Deshaun Jackson factor here.
Right.
He and his buddies are going to improve that stadium. I have no doubt about that.
Yeah.
And with the season they had this year, they're going to attract donors that they probably didn't know were alive still,
Right.
that want a part of this football program. So, yeah, and I like it. I didn't hear a single complaint about people about Delaware State about the parking, like you said. And in fact, a couple people texted me and said the same thing about the stands look full, which is
Right.
great for the presentation of high school football in Delaware. You get to the Bob for basketball and volleyball, and it's packed. Then
Right.
you go to the University of Delaware for football, and you're like, where is everybody? Well,
Right.
this is everybody.
This
It's just the
is
stadium's too big for it.
right. Yep. Yeah.
So, no, I love the fact that they're at Del State right now.
All right, Diamond Hill Incorporated has also been a sponsor from the start. For more than 20 years, they serve in all of Delaware and the surrounding areas in all things construction, commercial concrete, site development, residential projects. They have you covered. Email info@diamondhillinc.com. That's info@diamondhillinc.com. All right, it's time for our helmet stickers designed by Amy Hoff of Hoff Productions DE, and she specializes in graphic and multimedia stuff for every occasion. Just does wonderful work. Be happy to talk with you offline about things that she can do for you. She's done graphics for the Appoquinimink School District sports programs for years, as a volunteer, and just
Yep.
done a wonderful job. And so she's taken the next step and, open her own little side business here, that Hoff Productions DE at gmail.com. That's Hoff Productions DE at gmail.com. You can see my sweatshirt. You can see Marty's sweatshirt in the background
That's
if you're
right.
on YouTube. And we
There it
have a
is.
store. She opened up a merchandise store for us. And so you can go to hoffproductionsde.com and just click on the podcast store in the drop down menu, and you can go and purchase stuff. And I say it every time. We price things for them to sell. Marty and I are not making any money off of this.
Yep.
And so we want to we want people to come up to you and say, hey, where's that podcast? Where can I find it? It sounds interesting. That's what we're trying to do, to get more people interested in the podcast, to get more word out about high school football. So again, that's hoffproductionsde at gmail.com is where you can reach Amy, and you can see her stuff on hoffproductionsde.com. All right, helmet stickers. We're not gonna go in any sort of order. We're just gonna rattle through them. So
Yep.
if we do the first two or 3A, don't think, hey, we're done with 3A necessarily. So and then we'll do our promotion zone player of the week. I'm going to start, Marty, with Middletown defensive back Dorian Rutledge. He had 2 interceptions in that big win over Smyrna, or over Sally's, which stopped drives. And in a game
Yep.
like that, decided by 2 touchdowns, anytime you can stop a drive, it's huge. Dorian Rutledge did it twice. And so he's our first helmet sticker. Helmet stickers will be mailed to your school, to the attention of your coach, who will then give it to you. And it has a slip that reminds you not to put it on your helmet. Not an issue now, the season's over, but
Yep.
remember that next year. We've made them at a size that fits well on your tablet or even the back of your phone. So my first helmet sticker is Middletown defensive back Dorian Rutledge.
And just to make it easier, I'll stick with Middletown as well. I'm going to go with Darius Pope, Middletown wide receiver, 4 catches, 113 yards, a touchdown, got them off to a great early start. Just a kid who's been doing it all season. So Darius Pope's my first helmet sticker.
All right, I'm going to go to the opponent, Sally's running back Jay Burrell. He had 2 rushing touchdowns, so they scored 2 touchdowns. He had both of them, worthy of a helmet sticker. Sal's running back Jay Burrell.
And I'm going to go one more Middletown kid. This is a great story. tore his ACL back in March, came back, caught a touchdown in the championship game. It was his only catch, but the fact that he came back this soon from that kind of an injury, BJ Garrett, wide receiver from Middletown, and came back, caught a big touchdown in the second quarter. I believe it might have been the one that put them up 28-7, but it's a great story. Kid coming back from a torn ACL that soon. You usually hear guys coming back a year later. So great job. Congratulations, BJ Garrett. He's my next helmet sticker.
All right, now I'm going to go to class 2 for my next one, and that's Red Lions, Jamarian Ramsey. And I don't have any stats on him, but here's what he did. After the kick was missed by Indian River,
Yep.
as you can imagine, the Indian River players dropped to their knees in agony, and the Red Lion players started running all over the field. And it always cracks me up, Marty, when I see a celebration like this. Like, it's not like they're running to a statue.
No.
It's like, all right, where are we all going to meet and
Yes.
pile on each other? So they headed toward the middle of the field. And so everybody except Jamarian Ramsey, he stayed. And I couldn't tell from the video that I saw whether it was the kicker or someone else, and it doesn't matter.
Yep.
He stopped and he bent over and he consoled that kid and even helped pick him up. He put his arms under his shoulder, under his armpits and picked him up. Meanwhile, everybody else is celebrating. And that's
Yes.
not a negative for Red Line. You're supposed to be celebrating. What this is just pointing out true sportsmanship when nobody would have expected a Red Lion kid to stop and console an Indian River kid. Or if it was the reverse, nobody would expect
Right.
an Indian River kid to stop and
Yep.
console a Red Lion kid. But Jamarian Ramsey did. And for that, I picked him for a helmet sticker this week.
Let's see. My next one, I'm not sure I had one for this game. I had one of I did Michael Parento for Indian River in this game. 2 interceptions. He had a TD run in the third quarter. I believe he had close to 100 yards rushing in the second half. So he helped keep Indian River in this game. But Michael Parento is my next helmet sticker.
All right, I'm going to go to Newark Charter, Austin Badegbe. He had 2 touchdowns,
Yep.
and one of them in the overtime, and he was the one who ran it to about the quarter-yard line, maybe the foot-yard line. And so he just had he had an outstanding game. I don't have the yardage. Again,
Yep.
their game just ended yesterday late. But Austin Badegbe, a helmet sticker for his 2 touchdowns in that loss.
Then we'll move down to 1A. I'm going to go with Brendan West from Seaford. 16 carries, 107 yards. He's a kid that's just been an amazing running back for them all season, and he did a great job eating up yards in this one. So Brendan West is my first helmet sticker from the 1A game.
All right, I'm going to let you keep going with a couple players you had because I have one who's a non-player that we'll wrap it up with.
Vince Evans, the quarterback, and gets a helmet sticker from us. 97 rushing yards, 2 TDs. He did have an interesting fourth quarter, I'll say. If you saw the game, you know what I'm talking about. But he's been I've been on this kid all season. He's just an electric athlete. He did a great job in the game yesterday. So another helmet sticker goes to Vince Evans. The only other one I had, I think, was Chase Lednam with 2 interceptions for Seaford as well.
Alrighty, and so we're going to wrap it up with our second ever non-player helmet sticker. We gave a helmet sticker to the Newark Band back in a game that you were watching, Marty, and felt that
Yep,
was important and
that's
well
right.
deserved. But we're going to give a helmet sticker to a media member who broadcast his 500th high school football game on Friday night, the Middletown Sallies game. 2 years ago, he broadcast his 1,000th game in all of sports. He's been a high school broadcaster for years. He also broadcast for the University of Delaware. That 1,000th broadcast was also a Middletown basketball game,
Yes.
just a regular season game, but a Middletown game nonetheless. And why is that important? Because those significant milestones, 500th high school football game and 1,000th broadcast, all sports, all levels,
Yep.
was done by Middletown alum Glenn Frazier. And I was thinking, Marty, I'm not sure there's a broadcaster currently broadcasting who has been doing it longer than Glenn.
No.
I mean, Don Volts would have been that answer, but
Right.
he retired 5-6 years ago. And so Glenn, I should have asked him how many years he's been doing it. But it's been a long time if you've got 500 high school football wins. There's only 12 weeks,
That's
13 weeks out
right.
of the year that
I thought
you
about that
do
too.
that.
Benny Mitchell, it was funny. I think it was Benny Mitchell sent me something because the answer to this week's trivia question, the year it happened was 1971. And Benny said, you should probably ask Glenn because he probably called that
Right,
game.
yeah. But anyway, so congratulations to our good friend Glenn Frazier.
Yes.
Just a wonderful broadcaster, a great guy, always willing to pass along information he has to make my broadcast or anyone's
Yep.
broadcast better if he has some information that he feels you could
I would say
share.
he's
So
the dean of broadcasting now in Delaware with
that's what
Don
I was
Volz
getting
having
at. Yeah.
retired. And yeah,
Yep.
he's the guy.
Yeah, it would have been Don Volz 5 years
Yep.
ago, but Don's retired. Happy in retirement. Don, I
Yes.
see Don once in a while, and it's always fun to catch up. So anyway,
And
Glenn
Glenn's just, by
Frazier,
the way, Glenn's just a great guy.
he is.
It's
Yeah.
just an excellent individual.
Absolutely.
So,
Yep. Glenn Frazier, congratulations on your
yep.
500th broadcast. And what a game to broadcast. Your
Oh, yeah.
alma mater winning their 10th state championship. So.
Oh, and real quick, just to correct myself, Chase Lednam, who I gave a helmet sticker to, I said he was had 2 interceptions for Seaford. He's actually a Newark Charter kid, so
Okay.
I had that written down wrong. So Chase Lednam from Newark Charter got a helmet sticker as well.
Great. All right, it's time for our Promotion Zone Player of the Week. Whatever, wherever, and however you want to promote your organization, product, or anything else, Promotion Zone can help you make the right decisions based on your needs and your budget. Apparels, pens, coffee mugs, one of those places, one-stop shopping, celebrating their 16th year. They're located right here in Delaware. You can Google them on Facebook. Just Google Promotion Zone DE. They also have a website, promotionzone.biz. They're the swag folks since 2009 for all your branding and apparel needs. They've graciously donated, printed, and shipped a shirt to our Player of the Week each of the season or each of the weeks of the seasons. This year, they generously offered to give us 3 shirts, one for each class, and so that's what we're going to do. Marty, I'll say the player and the stats, and you can make a comment about them. Let's start with 1A. Our Player of the Week, Promotion Zone Player of the Week, is Seaford's Javion Hurst. He's the player that got in, got the tackle, and waited for others to pile on to make sure it stayed. But he, it wasn't one of these things where he banged this guy into another player.
Right.
He went in and fundamentally sound, and the kid's only a sophomore.
Yep.
Wrapped up the Newark Charter running back, Badegbe, and made sure he could not get into the end zone. So Javion Hurst is our first Promotion Zone Player of the Week for championship weekend.
And, when we look at players of the week, we're not necessarily looking at the best stats, or we're looking for somebody who had the biggest impact. And in this case, it's hard to argue against Javion Hurst for having the biggest impact in this game. He doesn't make that tackle and hold him up. This is that we might be telling a totally different story today. So congratulations to Javion Hurst.
All right, let's go to Class 2A. We're going to go with Red Lions Judea Barber. He had 21 rushes for 155 yards and a touchdown. Also, that 2-point conversion that he scooped up his own fumble and scored. What a heady play to do that. And so anyway, his touchdowns and his 2-point conversions were both in overtime, so very critical. So Judea Barber, the Red Lion Player of the Week for us in Class 2A.
He's been phenomenal. I don't think there's been a week where we haven't mentioned him as being he was the focal point of the Red Lion offense all season. Everyone knows that. That's another reason why he's our player of the game is everyone on the other team knew he was the guy they were going to go to, and he still gets his yards, he still gets his touchdowns. And I love it. He just said, I kept my focus, I found the ball, I picked it up, ran it in. I mean, it's sort of instinctual. By the way, he did get a nice little bunny hop there right up to him. He got lucky in that regard.
Right.
But to catch it and the fact that there was nobody close enough to him to affect that was just fantastic. So Judea Barber, congratulations, your player of the game in 2A.
All right, our final Promotion Zone Player of the Week goes to Middletown quarterback Darian Cunningham. Passed for 191 yards and 3 touchdowns. And Marty, he was the reason that when I watched that first touchdown that he threw to Pope to open up the game, he just plays with so much confidence and so much stature back there. And it's been fun watching him grow. I believe he started as a sophomore.
Yes.
And he sometimes played like a sophomore. And then he just continues to grow and mature. And so anyway, Darian Cunningham managed that game brilliantly, the whole game, but certainly got them off to the quick start with his pinpoint passing and that he made.
Yeah, you're right. And you took the words right out of my mouth. The fact that he stands back there with such confidence, and he knows that at any time he can jet out of trouble. So he takes his time. He scans the field. He's definitely been one of the top players in the state, if not the top quarterback in the state. I'm guessing he's probably going to be our first team All-Stater at the 3A level. But yeah, the kid has just grown immensely over the years. And it's funny, we talked about Evan Buttinger having the scholarship. I keep waiting to hear about guys like Darian
Yeah.
Cunningham, because the kid is just uber talented. And
Mhm.
those 3 touchdown passes with the flick of his wrist, he's throwing the ball 40 yards down the field. It's just amazing. And by the way, 3 of the quarterbacks I think this weekend are products of the Nolan Henderson training
Right.
program. And I texted Nolan last night and just said, "Man, it's got to feel good. You got these 3 guys." And he's like, he said, this was my plan when I finished playing, was I wanted to help the stars of Delaware. And I said, I don't recall a better group of signal callers in the state at any time in the past 20, 30 years than we have right now.
Right.
And Darian Cunningham is chief among them. Evan Buttinger is one of his guys. It's just the quarterback play is great, and Darian Cunningham is just, he has led that Middletown offense all season. They've struggled at times early because they had some offensive line problems. Once they got that straightened out, it was game over. They just dominated everybody, and he's a fun player to watch too, because once he gets out of the pocket, all bets are off.
He's
You have no
dangerous.
idea what's going to happen
Yeah.
with him.
Yeah. Alrighty, so again, that's our Promotion Zone Players of the Week, and again, thank you to Promotion Zone for not only giving a T-shirt out all season long, but allowing us to do. Actually, we did 2 last week because we had co-players of the week, and then
Yep.
3 this week. So, congratulations to them. All right, it's time for our last Marticelli Restaurant Group trivia question segment. We don't have a question for this week
Yep.
because it's the last podcast, but we're going to tell you who won the last 2 weeks. I happened to be out at a Marticelli restaurant last night with my family. We were celebrating. Riley goes back to college this morning, and so we wanted to go out one last time as a family. And we were at the Chesapeake Inn. And Marty, I just had a great meal. I had the land and the sea, which means I have filet mignon and crab cakes.
The old turf
And
and surf.
oh, it was wonderful. And so all of their places, that place, La Casa Pasta, Klondike Kites, just great places to eat. You can't go wrong. And the winner of our trivia contest gets a $50 gift card to any of those places. And we can't thank Marticelli Restaurant Group, another one that's been part of the podcast from the beginning when we reached out to them when we first decided to go to a football-only podcast. So, Marty, I'll let you talk about next week's or last week's
Yep.
winners, and then we'll talk. We'll wrap up the season talking about the season with the podcast
Yep.
and go from there.
2 weeks ago, our question was in 2002, I believe it was. Dan Ritter was his second season at Howard, and I believe it was the first time they qualified for a championship game. And the question was, who was Howard's star wide receiver? He made All-State on both offense and defense, and he's a current Delaware football coach. And everybody and their brother knew immediately who it was. I did not at first. It was Matt Carey
I did.
from
Yeah, I
Delaware
knew.
Military
Yep.
Academy. You did immediately, I
Yep.
know. And Glenn and Benny and all those guys texted me immediately. It's Matt Carey. It's Matt Carey. In fact, the only person I think I didn't hear from was Matt Carey. Um, but the winners that week were, because we were doing 2 that week, because I had forgotten a trivia question the week before, was Andre Smith, our own Andre Smith,
Right.
who's certainly eligible. Everybody is. And Alessia Biddle, who's, I believe her husband, Earl Biddle, has won several times. He always answers our questions. So congratulations to them. I think I still owe Andre a gift card. I got Alessia's out. I fell behind for whatever reason. This week, Curtis Wycliffe was our winner. And the question was, who was the first recognized state champion in Delaware under a tournament system? And the year was 1971, and it was Wilmington High School. So, sign of the times. It no
Right.
longer exists.
Right.
It's Charter and Cab Calloway now. So Curtis Wycliffe was the winner of that one. So congratulations to Andre, Alessia, and Curtis. Those cards will be in the mail to you if they haven't been already. And yeah, I love the trivia question. I love the Marticelli Group sponsoring this segment every week. I have a blast putting them together. So it's been a lot of fun.
All right, we're going to run through the sponsors real quick, and then we're going to talk about next year's podcast and some things we're thinking about. And first of all, though, we got to thank Websites for Sports and Brian Rutter, websites, the number 4sports.com, who's the primary sponsor of the podcast and has been since we made the change to the all football contest. Also, the Marticelli Restaurant Group, Promotion Zone, Diamond Hill Incorporated, Mary Kate Johnston with Remax Associates, Dan Rigby, author of Win the Day Planner, Andre L. Photography, and Amy Hoff of Hoff Productions. Just we appreciate the sponsorships that allow us to do this podcast and also do things like the helmet stickers, the rest of the trivia cards, that kind of stuff. And so we do appreciate that. But Marty, so I'm back next year. Pressure, you?
Yeah, I'm back. Yeah. I mean, it's too much fun, right? I mean, every Sunday we get together, we get to talk football for an hour or so, and I love My mom always says I spend every Friday night just tweeting and watching the games. I got the
Right.
three, you and I got the three set up going when you're not doing
Yep.
the Apo games.
Yep.
And it's a lot of fun. And people have
Yep.
started to look at us over the last couple of years as a resource for a lot of things,
Yep.
high school football. And we love that. I put out a Thanksgiving thank you to everyone because, without the people listening and tuning in every week and the coaches and the media people that help us with
Right.
stats and things like that, there's way too many to mention. Off the top of my head, like Chet Walters and Josh Webb and those guys, always get us the stats we need. Indian River is always great about that. There's a lot of teams out there that are doing a lot of work to help us do the podcast. And I love the interaction we get with people
Right.
online, whether it's direct messages or asking us questions on Twitter and things like that, or complaining that we're about our coverage of any teams. I love that give and take, and
Yeah.
it's we never degrade a kid. We
Nope.
never, when we started this, we said, you know what, we'll question different things, but we'll never run down a kid, and we never
No.
have, never
Nope.
will.
Nope.
And coaches know that when they share information with us, there's some stuff they say that this is okay to share. There's some stuff that's not. And the
Right.
reason we've stayed in contact with these guys is we keep to that. We hold
Exactly.
our promises.
Right.
So it's been fun. It's amazing. I love doing this with you. I said when we stopped doing football and you said, we got to figure out something to do. I didn't think this was going to be it. This has been awesome. I love
Right.
it.
Yeah. No.
And here we are, the shirt in the background and your shirt.
Yeah.
We've come so far. It's been a lot of fun.
Yeah, yeah, I do appreciate the stat guys. Glenn Phillips always reaches out to me. Jody Russell, Kenny Anderson, that kind, and there
Yep.
might be a couple others I'm missing, but we do appreciate that. And one of the things I'm going to talk about a couple things we've talked about,
Mm-hmm.
Marty. And we want feedback from people.
Yes.
We're not going to talk for the next 20 minutes about it, but I just in a few minutes here, sometimes it's easier for us to wait until Monday to do this because we can get more information, especially
Yes.
if there's several Saturday night games. These coaches don't put in stats on the bus ride home, and they shouldn't, and they're not going to.
Right.
But if we wait, and then all the media gets, because even now sometimes the print media, they don't put the stuff online until the middle of Sunday because
Right.
they're still gathering information. So it's not like it's available at midnight on Saturday night.
Exactly.
So let us know your thoughts. If it came out on Monday, are you just as likely to listen to it? Or do you listen to it because it comes out on Sunday at noon and you got all day? To
Yep.
whatever you're doing. You're not in school, you're not at work. So give us feedback on that. Also, we're looking at adding some segments, maybe a coach interview, maybe a media interview with somebody who covered the big game.
Yep.
So we might have Sean Green on, because he covered the overtime game
Right.
last weekend, that kind of stuff. Because media broadcasters, and Marty and I know this because we're both broadcasters, we have more information that we don't put on the air
Right.
that we know about that would contribute to the podcast.
Yep.
Oh yeah, well I talked to the coach before the game and he said this was going to happen, but I couldn't say it on the air because he trusted me not
Exactly.
to say it, to give any hints to people. So
Yep.
just let us our thoughts. We did that rapid rundown where we tried to do every game and get as many names as we like. Sure, the kids liked hearing their name, but it also adds about 20 minutes to the podcast. And so do you like that enough for us to keep doing it? Or should we do what we've done the first few years and pick maybe 2 games in each class that we're really going to focus on that would have your interest even if you weren't a fan of that school for whatever reason, that kind of thing. And then we like the big story thing. And sometimes it's going to have to do with something that happened on the field and sometimes it's not. And, I think we'll continue to do that as much as we can. So, Marty, anything you want to add to that?
No, I agree. I think the perfect example was the Caravel forfeit was an off the field thing.
Right.
That was our big story. Most of the time it was the big game or a big upset or whatever. But I love the fact that, we take one thing and we dive into it. And I'm glad you said it. It's funny. It's almost like making a movie, and the movie's 2 hours long, but the information or the film they have is like 6 hours worth. That's kind of how we are every week with our information. There's only so much we can tell on air, and then there's only so much time we have to tell stuff on air. So it's funny, but it's a part of it. The fun is gathering this stuff and hearing these different things and having the coaches trust us with stuff. And I think, like you said, I think the media member, the coach interview is something we're going to look at next year. And I'd love to hear people's feedback on the rapid rundown of all the games and what they thought.
Yeah.
That and especially the those two things, that one and the Sunday Monday conversation. Are you okay if we decide to do it on Monday? Would you be more or less likely to listen?
Right.
And if it's Sunday that you want, it's Sunday. We'll do. We'll work. Yeah, we'll work it. But
figure it out,
nice to hear what people think.
Yeah. And you can comment on our YouTube page. We opened that up this year
That's
and keep
right.
it clean. And thank you. We appreciate the people
Yep.
doing that. And or reach out to us directly, either on Twitter or our emails are available on our websites and stuff like that. So, Facebook page, you can comment there. So again, let us know. What do you like? Is there something you don't like in just the questions we asked? Sunday versus Monday. Rapid rundown stuff where we do every game, but it takes a lot of time and adds to the time of the podcast. So we appreciate it. So like we say at the beginning, we don't know when you listen, where you listen, and how you listen, but we do appreciate that you do listen because we enjoy doing it. Marty and I love bantering back and forth. It's funny, you might we hope we give the feel like we see each other all the time. I think I've seen you twice, Marty,
Yeah,
since the start of the season.
life has intervened, and
Right.
yeah, our paths have diverged a little bit. But yeah, it's funny. It's funny. Yeah, we used to be in contact constantly, and
Right.
now you've got a kid in college, and I've
Right.
got four granddaughters,
Right.
and it's funny the things pulling us in different
Right.
directions. But I still,
We
you're a
text every
great friend
day.
of mine. You're a
Yep.
great friend of mine, and I love doing this with you, and I
Yeah.
wouldn't trade it.
No, and that's what makes it fun because we are friends and we've been we've
Yep.
been we've been broadcast partners for
Yep.
10 years,
That's
whatever,
right.
and
That's
I'd
right.
love to figure that out, but it's been at least 10 years. And
Yep.
so it's been a lot of fun and we'll continue to do it as long as we're able to and appreciate your feedback so we can bring you what you want to hear. And so for one last time, for Marty Sheehan, I'm John Buzby. Thank you for watching and listening.